Here we go, I'm at the park early on a Sunday morning in summer. Well, they tell me it's summer, but if you look around, you can see it's just foggy. It's foggy and dull. I think now it's around about 8:30 and the sun's nowhere to be seen. I've come out this morning because I want to do some DLG. I want to get out there and give my glider a hurl. Haven't done that for a while because it's been so windy. It's been windy and wet. We've really had spring weather right up until Christmas. In fact, Boxing Day it peed down here. But now hopefully the weather is going to clear up a bit. We're going to get some fine days, some calmer days, but we've got wind forecast for the next week at least. So I'm trying to take this morning, which is supposed to be an oasis of calm, until about 10 o'clock. So we've got about an hour and a half to go. Hopefully the cloud will break before the wind picks up, and I'll get some DLG flying in, because there's nothing better than an emerging sun heating the ground early in the morning, getting those thermals going. So that's what I plan to do. But in the meantime, might as well have a bit of a chat, eh? Now, I watched a Botgrinder video this morning, the end of FPV, the death of FPV. He may be right, I don't know. But we had that drone thing in New Jersey, New York, which really highlights to me just what a failure remote ID has been. I just noticed I've got a tree growing out of my head, very bad composition. I'll move around a bit. Yeah, there we go. What happened? In America, we had all these alleged drone sightings, and the very thing that remote ID was designed for, the ability for the public to identify something as a drone and get some information on it, wasn't even mentioned. The FAA didn't mention it, the Homeland Security didn't mention it, the FBI didn't mention it. They were completely silent. Why was that, do you think? Well, probably because we all know remote ID is a bust. It is just an epic fail. The implementation was delayed several times, enforcement was delayed several times, and now we've even had I've noticed some really subtle changes in the rule for remote ID, because when it was first mooted, they said that standard remote ID, the stuff you get with a store-bought drone, anything that's not built by an amateur, hand-built DIY, anything that's not DIY requires standard remote ID, and that means that the transmitter has to have a GPS in it that broadcasts the actual live position of the operator, so that it can be rebroadcast from the drone as part of the RID signal. Now, what happened, of course, is that I'm seeing commercial craft coming out without a live update of the pilot position, and even some drones being sold with just an add-on remote ID module. Well, no, you can't sell a ready-to-fly drone with a remote ID. Well, you couldn't back in the day. It wasn't, the specification said it had to be standard remote ID with all that feature, and it had to be tamper-proof or tamper-resistant. Well, I'm sorry, but if you've just glued or tacked a remote ID module onto your store-bought drone and then sold it, no, it doesn't count. So no one's interested in enforcing it. In fact, I looked at the list of fines that the FAA has levied recently. They came out saying, we've levied $380,000, I think, worth of fines for people flying drones, badly, breaking the rules. And nowhere, not anywhere on that list, was anyone being fined for not having remote ID. That doesn't mean they all had remote ID, because they can't have, because there were fines for not having a registered drone and not having set the trust exam. All these things that you need to do to have RID. You have to be registered to have RID, because your RID has to have registration details in it, or vice versa. So they're just not interested. No one's interested in enforcing it. No one's interested in following up. So all those people who wasted their money on remote ID modules, you were fools, weren't you? You've been taxed, just taxed for no good reason. Because during that New Jersey mystery drone sighting fiasco, all the FAA had to do was come out and say, if you see a light in the sky, download this app from the App Store and see if it appears on the app. If it does, it's a drone. If it doesn't, it's not. They didn't dare do that, because they know that compliance levels outside of DJI drones, which have it built in, are very, very low. Commercial operators, DJI operators, or people who fly DJI, they're all using RID. They've got to. It's a necessity. But the freestyle drone community has thumbed their nose, and good on you guys for thumbing your nose at remote ID. It's lunacy. So I find it amazing that the very thing that would have completely sorted out the New Jersey drone situation wasn't used, because the people who forced it upon the community recognise they have failed epically. And so why even bother continuing this farce? Why bother? I mean, we know it's a joke, but they'll keep saying you've got to have remote ID, and loyal little servants will fit remote ID at great cost. It'll never come into effect, because there was a couple of guys were arrested for flying in a bando recently within Kui of an airport. And of course, the big news was that they were tracked with technology. So you'd think, oh, it was remote ID. They got tracked down with remote ID. Finally, it works. No, it was Aeroscope, because they were miles away when they were detected. And remote ID, as we know, only works, a few hundred yards. And if you're flying inside a bando, it won't even go that far. But Aeroscope, they were flying DJI drones, and Aeroscope, yep, it picked them up. So DJI has had remote ID ever since, thanks to the fact they sell the Aeroscope, which will pick up all the information from miles and miles, tens of miles away. So why do we need remote ID? Because generally speaking, the problem element are the ones who are operating out of ignorance, and they tend to be the ones who operate store-bought, shrink-wrap drones that come from remote ID. The freestyle crowd, the true enthusiasts, they generally aren't a problem. How can flying inside a building, a couple of miles away from an airport, how can that be a problem? Because you notice that those guys, and I saw this on Botgrinder's video, those guys, when they were arrested, they weren't charged with any offences in relation to their drones. They were charged with trespass, because if they're flying indoors, there were no offences, right? So it just shows you the joke, the mock. It's. I can't believe you guys. I mean, the drone rules here in New Zealand are bad enough, but in the USA, it's just a farce. It's just a joke that you're getting so much lumped upon you. So who knows? I would say the next thing is that after this big New Jersey, New York drone thing, which was proven to be nothing more than airliners flying at night, as they always have with their lights on, I guarantee you, just like the Gatwick drone incident, that three-letter agencies and politicians and Karens will use the mystery drones over New Jersey as justification for rolling out more regulation. Even though we know there were no damn drones. It was an airliner issue, not a drone issue. But that like Gatwick, there was no Gatwick drone, but that will be used as justification for tougher regulation, more restrictions, more controls, and probably network remote ID. That's in the future in America. They really want to roll out that network remote ID, not because it's going to improve safety and make people, make lives easier. It's because it will earn money. Money. Pay to fly. You won't be able to arm your drone until you've paid for the privilege of doing so. Of course, it won't affect the freestyle community. I'm pretty sure that they will just say to network remote ID what they have said to remote ID. And given the levels of enforcement are low, but they're only low at the moment because there's no money to be had, right? As soon as network remote ID starts generating huge revenues, then you can guarantee enforcement levels will go up, because every time someone flies without network remote ID, someone else is losing money, and money is the driving force, nothing to do with safety. Anyway, that's my little rant. I'm going to do some, I guess it's still a bit foggy, but it's clearing slowly, so I might as well walk over to the middle of the field and get ready to do some discus launch gliding. No multi-rotors. Well, there is a multi-rotor today. I've got the little Neo, which I'm going to use to help try and get some sensible video if I can, but the lighting is poor and the Neo camera is crap, so this will probably look like it was filmed on a potato. Anyway, stay tuned. Here we go. You're an airplane above all this fog, so it can't be too thick. The sun must be coming out pretty soon.